Okay, this is lesson 4, reciprocal functions and negative angles. So just before we get started, I want to go over what a reciprocal is, just to remind you. So the reciprocal is when you switch the numerator and the denominator, right? So the reciprocal of 1/2 would be 2 over 1. Okay, and 3 over 2. And the reciprocal of 5 would be 1 over 5. And the reciprocal of sine theta would be 1 over sine theta. Okay, so when we ask you to write the reciprocal of something, you're just switching the numerator and the denominator. All right, the second thing is if we have an angle here, right, this is our related angle of 50. Okay, if I look at this first picture here, I'm saying if I go the whole way around the axis, the graph, and plus this extra angle. Okay, so in order to find this theta 1, I would have to do 360 plus 50. Okay, so anytime it goes more than once around, you're going to add it to 360 degrees. If you look at the second picture, I'm starting at the x-axis and going backwards or clockwise around my grid. Okay, so this angle here is 50. So what we do here is we go backwards and we figure out what this angle is here. So the whole thing is 360 minus 50. Okay, and because we're going backwards, we call this a negative angle. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that later in the lesson. So what's new this lesson is the reciprocal functions. So just a reminder, our sine function is y over r. Okay, cosine is x over r. And tan is y over x. So when I ask you to write the reciprocal functions, okay, we have a different name for them. So if you look here, okay, 1 over sine theta, so that's the reciprocal of sine, is equal to r over y. So we've just switched our numerator and our denominator. Okay, but we have a special name for 1 over sine theta. We call it the cosecant. Okay, and the short form for cosecant is CSC. Alright, so instead of having to write 1 over sine theta, we can just write CSC theta. So what that means is the reciprocal of sine theta. Okay, the reciprocal of cos, so you look here, this is 1 over cos. Okay, that's the reciprocal of cos. We call this the secant. Okay, and we use the short form SEC. And you'll notice here, all we've done is we've switched our regular x over r to r over x. So we've just switched our numerator and our denominator. So the reciprocal of sine is cosecant. The reciprocal of cos is secant. And the reciprocal of tan is cotangent. Okay, and the short form for that is COT. Okay, so we have these three reciprocals, and what it means is you're switching the numerator and the denominator from the regular ratio. Okay, so the regular ratio for tan is y over x. The reciprocal ratio is x over y. Okay, so cosecant, secant, and cotangent. So you have to remember which one's which. Cotangent's easy. Okay, cosecant and secant, it's the opposite of sine and cos, right? So you can see the cos goes before the sine, and then the regular cos doesn't have a cos in front anymore. So cosecant matches up with sine, secant matches up with cos. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of examples using the reciprocal. Okay, so just a quick reminder that you have these special triangles with all of your ratios from yesterday's lesson. I'm going to use these when I'm doing the reciprocal examples. Okay, so here's my first one. I have a equals sine 30. So if you use your special triangles from yesterday, okay, that's the opposite over the hypotenuse. So it's 1 over 2. Okay, so sine 30 is 1/2. which means cosecant 30, which is the reciprocal of sine, is going to be 2 over 1. Okay, because sine and cosecant are just the reciprocal of each other. If I have cos 45 from my special triangles, okay, that's going to be 1 over root 2, which means the reciprocal of cos, which is the secant, is going to be the reciprocal. So if cos 45 is 1 over root 2, secant of 45 is root 2 over 1. Okay, so we'll do one more. So tan of 60 using our special triangles is root 3 over 1. So that means the cotangent of 60, the reciprocal of tan 60, is 1 over root 3. Okay, so as long as you can figure out the regular sine, cos, and tan, it's easy to find the reciprocal. You just have to flip your numerator and your denominator. Alright, so we'll do a couple using our calculator. Okay, so if I ask you to find the cosecant of 15, what I'm actually asking you to find is the reciprocal of sine 15, because cosecant is 1 over sine theta. Okay, so in your calculator you type 1 divided by sine 15, and what you should get is 3.8637. Okay, and we're rounding to 4 decimal places because it asked us to in the example. Okay, the second one here is cotan of 30. So we know that's the same as 1 over tan 30 because it's the reciprocal of tan. And it asks us to use our calculator, so we're just going to punch this into our calculator, and we should end up with 1.7321. Okay, so whenever you're finding the reciprocal function, it's 1 over the original function.